All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Van Chats. I'm sitting here with, I like to think of downhill legend, but now she's riding above 8 hours and doing these crazy gravel rides. It's Kathy Pruitt. How you doing, dude?
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Really excited to just chat about bikes and
All
who
that
knows
fun
what
stuff.
else with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I saw one of the videos that really like kind of made me latch onto you and like get really excited about you was the video that you did with Peter Stetina.
Okay.
So let's dive into that. The funnest known time. Like, how did that all come about? Because he was on the podcast a little bit too. He kind of released some details about it. So yeah, how did that all kind of come about, and how was it?
Yeah, that's a pretty fun memory. I got linked up for the SKT challenge here in San Diego because I live in San Diego. I like gravel bikes. He
Yeah.
knows I know a lot of routes. My relationship with Canyon, which is also his bike sponsor, and my availability, which was like, heck yeah, well, let's go ride for 6-7 hours and do some filming. And I met him when I was working at Canyon behind a desk, and we kept in touch just because he used to race a world tour, and I raced the World Cup, so we're like, oh, it's crazy, you travel with bikes and airplanes, and just having that in common. And then he's like, hey, would you be interested in like figuring out a route that people could do that has like a water stop, that has like single track, that has like something that people can do that's fun. I'm like, okay, so I need to find a route that has slides or swings and
Yeah.
water. I'm like, how am I going to find all this in San Diego? It's like
Yeah.
desert. There's a fair amount of traffic, and the main routes I normally take, people might already know, which is Belgian waffle ride routes. So I was like, okay, I got to do something different. And a friend of mine here that's part of a local club called Croom, they are pretty good about finding new routes, just because it's like, you can't ride the same stuff all the time. So
Sure.
she was able to send me a little link of like, hey, have you tried this variation? And so I went and pre-wrote it one day, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be perfect. There's even a water stop.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so Pete showed up with his crew and filmers, and it was really fun to just, not be in a race, but just be able to show someone a route and get to ride with somebody else that's probably going to appreciate it
Yeah.
and be part of this like new, how do we market ourselves without being at races and without really being able to travel? Like,
Yeah.
okay, this is like a new thing we have to do. And I felt super stoked that I had a chance to kind of like be part of this new, how do we market ourselves with all these new ideas that we come up with where people can ride separately for these challenges.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, that's dope. And I mean, like, so coming from your background, I mean, you're a national champion downhill rider. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like,
And I was going to say, I did win a world championships, but it was when I was a junior. So sometimes people don't count that.
well, I was searching for that stuff, and no, I would count that. I mean, that's pretty legit. But one of the articles that I got really excited about that I saw, you broke your hand, I think at a World Cup, and then you Velcroed your hand to the handlebar and rode the next day.
I did.
So
Yeah.
how do you go from, and I mean, I guess it kind of makes it a lot easier to have that conversation of suffering on a duration level. But like, what's the process from you training downhill to now being gravel-esque kind of style of racing?
I think of it as, I'm trying to phrase this right, an evolution.
Yeah.
Because of the way that I grew up was on a motorcycle, racing, riding, became a mountain biker that found something as close as possible to what I liked doing
Yeah.
without a motor. And then wasn't really ever interested in pedaling for long periods of time. It just seemed so boring, and the bikes didn't look fun. And I think as I got older, I was like, oh, well, I'm not really racing downhill anymore. And I like exercising. And now I work for a company that has road bikes and gravel bikes, like, and I live in Southern California now. This was a year and a half ago. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I guess what I'm going to do now is ride road bikes like everybody does around here, because I'm not going to drive 2 hours to ride mountain bike trails.
Yeah, for sure. No, well, it's just like, well, it's nuts to think about like the process of you going, okay, you know, I do this downhill stuff, you know, and you hear about these world tour guys coming over, and the crossover is pretty easy, right? Like they spend all the time on the bike. Now it's just something else for them to do. You did downhill, and I mean, it's probably some gnarly shit. If you're breaking your hand, Velcroing it, and then doing it the next day, like I feel
Yes.
like this is an actual kind of style of retirement for 8 hours. You know what I mean? You just cruising, enjoying, versus, you know, just getting rowdy all the time.
Yeah, I mean, okay, here's the thing. I totally understand that people have this perception that gravity racers are extreme, and
Yeah.
that we don't have a lot of mental toughness when it comes to like physical, I would say like challenges, like being on your bike a long time, stuff like that. But that doesn't mean everybody's like that.
No, for sure. Well,
And
I don't think all the downhill people are like that either, though. So have that super clear. Yeah.
actually, there's one person who I've been noticing lately that's back in the news a little bit, who's a super well-known gravity racer, and I think an Olympic BMX, maybe even medalist, Jared Graves.
Okay.
There's people listening to this podcast might remember his name. He's still riding for Yeti, but he got really sick and fought through disease, and then had some issues with questionable, I don't know what he was using to get better, so got a little bit in trouble with UCI. So he's been road racing now in Australia, doing really good. And like for anyone who knows him, you'd be like, well, that's crazy. I never would have thought he'd do that. But it makes me really happy, because I'm like, I'm not the only one
Yeah.
that's like coming from over here and now doing this. And honestly, if you were to talk to me 10 years ago, I never would have thought that I was gonna race over 100 miles, let alone like trying to win in a pro field.
So is that your goal now? Like, honestly, because like I feel like some people are coming into gravel with an open mind. Like a lot of the pros, like, you know, I race World Cups on the track. Like I was on the national team
Okay.
for track. Like that was kind of my forte.
Dang.
And like winning was my thing. When it comes to gravel, like if I can get across the line at 200 miles, you know, in the top 30, if I can sit with the front group for a little while, I'm good. I'm a big dude. There's no chances of me doing the Belgian waffle ride and finishing with Keegan or Peter Stetton or any of those guys. But if I can get through it, I'm all good. So is that like kind of your goal, is like to finish, or are you kind of like Pete, where it's like, no, I'm not done yet. Like I have some stuff that I want to
Yeah.
go for.
Now that I've realized what I'm capable of with barely touching the surface of, I think I started road riding last November. Literally like consistently.
Yeah.
And then I got a coach from CTS, I think in March. I mean, that's not even a full year of training.
Yeah.
And if I'm already like competing at a top level and feeling as good as I do, I feel like I owe it to myself to see where I can take it.
No, that's cool.
Because it's pretty much like now or never. You're
Yeah.
not going to get another chance to be in this position at this time and have these opportunities. So I honestly, I have nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah.
Like literally and figuratively, like downhill racing, I was afraid
Yeah.
of some of the courses, and all the prep would go into like the mental preparation to not let myself be afraid.
Well, I
And
feel like is there a lot of strength training
with downhill racing?
Yeah. I mean, you're just like, I mean, I
You
feel like
know,
there'd be a that'd be a big component of it. Like, even if you're not pedaling all the time.
I never was really a big fan of strength training. I probably should have done more,
Yeah.
but I was always like, I thought I was bigger than I was.
Mm.
I would get on the podium with people and see photos and realize I'm not like the big downhill person I thought that I was. But one of my strengths with racing was that I was so agile, and I could pretty much out pedal anybody, even when you're like barely hanging on. So when you add more weight, you run the risk of being a little more like sluggish,
Mm.
not as agile, nimble. And so I just never really put on muscle when I weight trained in my upper body, which is where you really want it.
Yeah. Yeah,
And maybe that's foretelling of what I'm doing now. Maybe I really should have been an endurance athlete in my 20s.
maybe, yeah, you would have been a junior world champion on the road or something. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
I lived in Colorado Springs for a while, and I was around the Olympic Training Center there. And I just always was like, man, these people are like so extreme. And now it's like, 15, 20 years later, I'm like, what am I? All right, here we go again.
Yeah, for sure. So what does 2021 look like for you? I know you've already done the Belgian waffle ride, but like I see Amity, like I'm watching all these Canyon athletes, and there's potential like you're going to be a full-time Canyon athlete, next year. And it seems like those athletes are doing cool things. Like you got the vegan cyclist, you have Pete Stetina, Amity Rockwell. I mean, Lionel Sanders, triathlete, like super cool athletes. So how are you going to fit in and do like, you got any cool plans, things kind of laid out in attempts for next year?
Definitely. I think if anyone has been following me on social media or Canyon's social media, they've seen some of the fun just travel videos and race related like content before the event that my boyfriend Rob and I have been making and putting out there, and it's been really fun to provide this like on the scenes content to Canyon or to like Giro or somebody like that who's like really hungry to get more personality out there for people.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the main things that Canyon is doing really good is that they've realized like, yeah, there's no racing, but it doesn't mean this doesn't stop, like the train doesn't stop. And we have people that have personalities, like let's do something with that. Because anybody nowadays realizes if you're an athlete, you're more than just a performer.
Yeah.
You've got to figure out how to reach your people, tell your story. You have to be pretty intelligent to figure out like how to even come up with a plan to do that.
Yeah.
Like where are you going to go, what time of day, how long, what's the point of the video?
Yeah. You almost have to
Wahoo.
create like these storyboards and scripts, and it becomes a headache. 6 different cameras, GoPros, all kinds of stuff.
Exactly. And because of my obvious close relationship with my boyfriend, Rob, we've been able to do a lot of this stuff very quickly and efficiently and fun because we're both comfortable working together. And it's been a super awesome dynamic that we're going to continue working on through the next year and beyond. Simply because there's a lot of companies that just don't have the time to make this, or they aren't going to sit there and think of a plan, or they're not actually there. Like in Idaho, at the Rad Trail filming it. They're just not going to be there. So, to what you said, Canyon is really supportive of if you want to do stuff, go do it. We'll repost it. We're going to help you come up with ideas. We're going to spend some money on whatever we need to do to figure it out. And I guess the point is that I'm really happy to be working with them moving forward because they're happy with what I'm doing. And even if races continue to get pushed back or even canceled, I feel like there's a backup plan to still do something cool.
Yeah, no, well, it seems like the industry's doing okay, I think. I don't really know. I don't really look at the industry's books or anything, but like Scott Bicycles sold out of bikes, and now they're taking pre-orders for 2022. And then like Canyon pretty much sold out. Like it's unreal. And so, and you have like guys like Pete who are in the world tour, or even like Ted King, like these guys who were in the world tour who are now, they want to keep that dream alive. They want to keep the bike racing dream alive. And they're putting out amazing content. And so what's some stuff on the docket that you kind of have planned? Is like there's like anything you can talk about? Like, is there an FKT attempt at White Rim, or is there anything crazy that you kind of have on the docket?
That's so funny you just brought that up. I know there's been a lot of talk about the FKT and the white room lately.
Yeah.
And not saying I'm going to necessarily go for that one, but I am looking at that one.
Yeah.
Well, I was wondering, since it's been possibly raining, if the sand might be more packed down. So we'll see if I decide to do that or not. I don't
Yeah.
know. But I'm looking at all kinds of stuff. I mean, even maybe like multi-day stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, really?
there's the sky's the limit, and I feel like people love a good story, and I love a good challenge. So it's kind of like how I decided that I would Everest last May for this Children's Cancer Foundation.
Yeah.
And help raise money. It worked really well to help raise the money, but then I was terrified that I actually now had to do it.
Yeah.
Because at that point, I mean, sure, I'll go summit Palomar Mountain anytime, but then to do it 7 times, you're like,
Yeah.
maybe I cut off more cake than I can eat this time. But
Yeah.
again, I think that means that you pick a good challenge when you like think, oh shoot, I don't know if I can do it. It's like, that's the whole thing that's inspiring, right? About sports is you inspire other people because they're just like, they're seeing that it's not easy for you, or maybe it is easier. It's like real drama.
Yeah.
Happening
and just like
in front of you.
playing out. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I see what Pete's doing. And, I was really stoked that Amity was part of that. And if I do go there, it'd be mainly just because it's like, well, we're all playing this game now of like QMs, KOMs, and FKTs, and like, but it's a bit funny because it's like, well, now we got to get the canyon back on both steps over there.
Yeah. Well, she said the coolest thing ever is like, and I don't know if it was just kind of played up, like she just happened to say the right words because I guess the FKT had fallen before the video came out. But like it was so inspiring to hear her pretty much be like, I hope this inspires somebody to come beat it. I hope it just inspires somebody to come take it. Like that's what records are meant for. And that's what this is meant for. And that's what I love about cycling. That's what I like. Like it's cool to have a national record. It's cool to have a record, but that's what I want to see. And so it was kind of cool to see that. And even I feel like Pete's kind of the same way. Like as competitive as he is, he wants to beat Keegan, but he wants Keegan to come back out there and beat it again, or he wants somebody else to come out there and beat it again.
Well, let me tell you this. On this note, you made me think of something.
Yeah.
How uninspiring is it to see the same team win every year, or the same person win every race? Yeah. It's really cool for that person, but it's not. It honestly probably doesn't feel that great for that person either after like maybe the 5th time.
Well, that's why.
That's why
competition. I think. Yeah, that's why I think gravel racing is so cool. Like because every race, every condition kind of flips its way. But like, I mean, crit racing got boring after a while with like UHC, and you just like, you go down the list of these pro teams that would just come in, wreck house, and they would go like 1, 2, 3. And it was just like, this is about to happen again. Like it was honestly more interesting to watch a local race.
And how interesting is it too that like if we're gonna just narrow down on one specific part of cycling with gravel racing, how interesting is it that we have so many different disciplines that are now just coming into this sport to see like if it works with their background, because we're all kind of trying to figure this out.
For sure.
And I would say if you're gonna stack up like where gravity racing is with like road racing and triathlete racing, it's like, okay, well, maybe I don't have the background in the years of miles, but I have the technical ability and maybe I have the stubbornness. So it's like, does that combination work, or is it the combination of the triathlete with that then learns the skills that then, it's like nobody knows yet exactly what's going to work.
No, and that's so beautifully put, because like just like you said, I think even, I don't know if you said it in the podcast or before we started, but like, you and Pete like didn't really know each other, but you met and you were like, oh, you were in the World Tour. I did World Cups. Like you did this, I did that. Like, it's so crazy to think like at some world championships, like we're just passing by each other, but we would never meet. We would never communicate. We would probably never see each other. And like, I don't know who's riding mountain bikes. I don't know who's doing gravity. I don't know who's doing what, but I know who's doing track and I kind of know who's doing road. And it's probably the same for you. Like, you don't really know who's doing the road, but you know who's doing the mountain bike side of things or short track side.
Yep.
So it's kind of interesting to think about, like, there's this Team USA that doesn't really compile, but yet come gravel day, you know, I've had gravity racers, I've had mountain bike racers, I've had, you know, road cyclists, track cyclists, all on this podcast. And I think it's literally because of gravel. And so it's kind of interesting to think about.
It's the glue that's bringing it all together.
It's the glue.
And that's something that definitely enticed me. Just a bit of background on my first gravel race was BWR San Diego, 2019? Yeah. So I've said this before in a different podcast, but essentially I just wanted to finish. It took me like 9 or 10 hours. I made some really great friends. We rode 70 miles together. I didn't know who they were. We stay in touch now.
Yeah, that's cool.
And that's another thing with this gravel racing is you have so much time on the bike to make friends or suffer, or, you know, you just don't know what's going to happen. With track racing like you did, or downhill racing like I did, I had 5, 4, maybe 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Not only so many things are going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, in that time period.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, it's funny too, just talking about handling in itself. Like, you'd probably ride away from me just handling, but if I had a straight road, it'd be a different story. Because like, I literally got dropped. I don't know. Did you do Mid-South this year?
No, I didn't.
That's when the craziness started to hit.
I think I was still the desk jockey, so I wasn't. Yeah, I saw the pictures and the drama that unfolded.
Yeah, well, like literally, I was in it. I was with the big dogs, and then we hit the single track, and I was no longer to be found. That's not my forte. I'm used to just turning left once, but anyways.
Left. NASCAR.
Yeah, that's like the only thing I can do and handle. When it starts like doing all these crazy turns and downhills and rock drops, I'm pretty much out.
And you know, to Pete's point, like now that just really like exemplifies, he doesn't really have a technical riding background, I don't think, if you're a road racer, right?
I mean, yes and no. Like, some of the best bike handlers that I know, and it's probably because I don't know very many gravity racers and so on and so forth, but like from Paris-Roubaix, like those classic styles of riders that have raced in Europe where they're like super close with people, they just know how to get in and out of holes. And they know how to maneuver the bike a little bit more. Now, I guess if you threw them in the woods and made it go down, like it could be a completely different story, but it's like, it's the finagling of the bike through a group of people on an altered terrain is where I think like a lot of those guys are pretty good.
That makes sense. I'm still trying to figure out, again, I feel like it's a game of what type of athlete from what background is going to be the ultimate gravel combination.
Who knows? Like part of me feels like Payson is kind of hitting the nail on the head. But then again, like Colin's a kind of a mixture of all. Colin Strickland, and then Allison Tetrick, I think's another one, but I think she has a pretty big road background. But I can't think of the girl that's on Orange Seal. She's a mountain bike girl, small girl, but she's a ripper too. And they haven't really brought any cyclocross riders in yet, which is I'm kind of shocked about. So,
well, I only did 1 year of it, but I did win the single speed national title.
Did you?
Yes.
Oh, dude, I've had Jake Wells on here, and now you, 2 single speed national champions. Boom. I feel like you should just try it all. Like you should try it all.
I think I will, but I'm not sure about triathlete stuff. I'm not.
Oh, well, I'm talking about like the USA cycling. We got to stay in one foundation. So let's like throw you on the track, like get you in a team pursuit.
I wouldn't be opposed to trying out some track stuff. I actually rode the track in Colorado Springs with my coach at the time at CTS with another racer who doesn't race anymore, but her name's Tracy Mosley. And we rode some laps together, and it was terrifying because you have no brakes.
Yeah.
Which was
no coasting either.
I almost showed up with the full face helmet on. Like I was that convinced that we might slide down or something, you know, because you get up so high.
Well, sliding down, it's honestly the slow ones that get you the worst, but sliding down, it's usually just ass cheeks and shoulders that you're going to lose. It's a
and
rough day.
you're just wearing a skin suit. So yeah, I was like, this is not, it doesn't seem very safe. So I did have a good time doing it, but now with the more road riding I've been doing, I'm like, okay, this could enjoy it more.
Yeah, no, for sure. So cool. So so just kind of diving in and like kind of closing up the podcast, we do our segment, and that is, if you could have a cup of coffee with one person, dead or alive, who would that person be? What kind of beverage would you have? Like what kind of coffee? Black, latte, whatever. And why?
I'm going to stick with my first choice that came to mind.
Yeah.
And her name is Marla Streb. People may or may not know her. I was on a team with her for 3 or 4 years. It's the Luna team, which is now the Cliff Bar team.
Okay.
She was a huge influence in my life I think I met her when I was 16, maybe 15, and then got to travel with her and race with her. And she's super smart, used to be a scientist. I think did AIDS research before becoming a mountain biker. And I had the most fun times traveling with this person. I have not seen them in probably now 12 years, maybe 7. But I believe she's on the East Coast.
Sweet.
And if you guys don't know who this person is, definitely look her up. Interesting individual, let alone pretty talented athlete in the beginning of the mountain bike craze.
Awesome. No, that's
so
cool.
The coffee would just probably be an Americano.
Americano. Is there like a specialty bean or anything that you would have, or is it just like, I just need an Americano?
Lately I've been, I know they weigh it.
Yeah, some people get fancy and weird about it. So I always ask.
I mean, honestly, if it was with Marla, we'd probably put like a shot of Bailey's in it or something.
Right on.
But she's not too picky either. It's just like,
sweet.
It's a watered down espresso. There
you go. You can't be too picky if you're going to water it down. Well,
no.
Well, thank you so much, Kathy. And I really appreciate it. And I wish you the best of luck. And hopefully I get to run into you and Ryan. And we could do some travel vlogs and some cool stuff. And I can see you guys. And maybe we get to race together. And hopefully this vaccine comes through. That's all the craze right now in the news. But other than that, be safe, stay healthy. And thank you guys so much for listening. We appreciate it. Cheers.
Yeah, thank you.